Hey people, hope you're all well. Okay, I'm not going to speak too loud because it is the early hours of the morning and the walls here are not that thick. Um, I'm going to be touching on a subject here I have approached before on this channel. Um, it's quite a personal subject, well, very personal subject, but nevertheless one that affects a lot of people. That sound, by the way, was just my phone turning on. I'm waiting for a message from someone. Um, yeah, it's personal, but it's something that affects a lot of people. So I think I've always taken an approach on this channel of talking about anything that I feel is important, and basically nothing is off bounds. Um, some people have, with good intentions, cautioned me about speaking on personal matters. To be honest, I really don't feel hesitant about it because I know what I want to say and what I don't want to say, and I'm quite confident in that. Um, So I think, that what's the alternative? Just age up and not talk about things that I think are important. I think that's not something I want to do. Now I understand the caution there because sometimes when you open up on the internet, this is a public channel, anyone can watch it. You can sometimes invite trolls inadvertently or scrutiny or, what have you. But I'm confident in my views. I'm confident in how I approach this. So that's that's that. And I do think it's important to talk about these things. Um, Depression, clinical depression, is something that I'm only too familiar with. Um, and tonight it's been there. I've been just it kind of comes into my mind. I just think I'm just a bit down. That's it. Um, and I think for me, talking has always helped. I'm a talker. Some people their approach is to be a little bit introverted and maybe go on a walk or something, and that's fine. That's understandable. But for me, I've always found talking, vocalizing things helps. So in this sense, I'm sort of doing this for myself as well, because I feel if I talk this way, it's something productive rather than just mulling on my own happiness. Um, there's a number of things going on in my life right now which are really not ideal. My money situation, as always, is not great. I'm not really in stable work. Um, I try. I really do try. I'm trying to get a breakthrough in journalism. I work as an English tutor, but it's inconsistent work. So, without going into the finer details, the money situation is a constant concern. Excuse me. I may actually be my student. She was unwell this week, so I was just saying if she would be free tomorrow. Yeah, so without going into the finer details, money has always been an issue for me, or a long-standing issue. This is the sort of thing people would sort of maybe caution me about speaking about. But why should it be taboo? Why should it be taboo? Obviously, it's not the sort of thing that you would say openly on the dating site, for example. I mean, I'm not going to go up to someone that I don't know and say, "Oh, by the way, I've got money problems." But when I'm talking about this subject, about depression, I do need to give it some context. And what I'm talking about, money concerns, is something I think a lot of people can relate to. I don't think everyone's in my position necessarily, but yeah, it's a drag, and it's something that I get annoyed when people say, "Oh, money's no object," or "money's." They sort of trivialize money. The thing about money, in of itself, yeah, money doesn't buy happiness, but what it does do is provide the stability and the means for happiness. So many things involve money. True, there's a lot that doesn't. I mean, you could go for a walk for free. There's other things that don't involve money, but realistically, so much does. So I get a bit annoyed when people kind of imply that having money problems or not having money is somehow not a challenge because it is, or they imply that money is just a trivial thing. That's fine for people who are stable. You know, if you don't have worries about money, then you can't relate to what I'm talking about. Or maybe you can because you've experienced this before. But people who downplay it really annoys me because that's not helpful and it's not understanding of what the issue is. Um, and you know, I'm tired of being single. I've spoken about my online dating experience. I want to find the right woman, but it's a constant balancing act because you know I need to know what can I offer her. It's you can't be selfish in these things. You have to think, what can I offer the other person? What's my selling points? Um, and you want to be honest and true to yourself. You want to be confident, um, and yet you want to be honest. You don't want to hide things from a person. You don't want to play games. It's I find with online dating especially, there's so much balancing involved. So really, this past week, those two things have been playing on my mind a bit. Um, and I'm not looking for advice here. Please, people, that's not what I'm doing. Because sometimes, again, when people express their issues, sometimes others, with good intentions, offer advice like, "Oh, you should do this or you should do that." No, I'm not asking for advice. I know what I need to do. I need to keep looking forward somehow. Rather, what I'm doing here is just trying to vocalize that these are the sort of things that can get people into a rut. And I think the issues that I've named, um, money issues and dating life, or lack of in my case, they're common problems. That's why I'm quite confident saying, yes, this is what I'm going through. Because I really don't think they're taboo, or at least they shouldn't be. No, I want to talk more just about the feeling of depression. Not so much the things that cause it in life, more about just the feeling of depression. Now, anyone who's watching this has been through it, which I suspect will be quite a number of you, you'll know how hard it is to shake off that negative thinking. And, you know, the internet is awash with kind of self-help gurus and um, people talking about positive thinking, and you just put your mind in the positive state and all of this. And that's not without merit, but the thing about clinical depression is when you're in that frame of mind, it is very, very, very hard to force yourself to be happy or even content. It's very hard. I mean, the way I've been feeling tonight, I wouldn't go so far as to say I've been miserable. That's an exaggeration. Um, I've things to be grateful for. But honestly, the way depression makes me feel is that I'm just coping. I'm just getting by. I'm just dealing with things. I don't want to be dealing with things. I want to just be happy. I have not been truly happy for, honestly, a couple of years now. Now, what I mean by this, and again, this is something that an area where perhaps depression can be misunderstood. Depression doesn't necessarily mean you're constantly miserable. And it's not a case of if someone says they're depressed, it doesn't mean they're going to kill themselves. Okay? Suicide, sadly, is an extreme manifestation of what depression can cause. But probably most people who are depressed are not necessarily suicidal. I'm not. You know, it's for one thing, I'm not that miserable, and secondly, I think it's fundamentally a selfish act. You know, I would never want to hurt my parents that way. But I want to be in a better frame of mind. I don't want to be just coping. I want to be happy, or as happy as I can be. The thing about life is that we'll always, always, always have issues, always. I'm not sure if perfect happiness exists, but I think it can be better than when you're in a state of depression. Um, this is something for me that's come up and down over the years. You know, I was formally diagnosed in 2012 and 2016 and had medication for it. Not for very long, very brief periods. That medication, um, the first time I think was something called sertraline, the second time mirtazapine, or the other way around, I can't remember. They weren't particularly effective. Now, maybe I'd taken it the wrong way. Maybe I hadn't fully followed the instructions, but I didn't find them particularly effective. And of course, you want to be a bit careful about medication, not to become overly reliant on it. No, in my case, what happened was I just naturally got into a slightly better state of mind, but that was not from forcing myself to feel happy. You know, I'll talk a little bit about that second part of serious depression. In late 2015, things were just going wrong. My bike was stolen. Our pet dog died, our beloved family dog. My girlfriend left because her visa expired. There were just lots of different things going a bit downhill for me. And yeah, those things came together. They were all roughly the same time or close in time. And I found it quite hard to deal with. And yet, if I sort of surrendered at that point and thought, well, oh, things are never going to get better, I've had some very good experiences since then. And, I'm not going to give anyone advice here, but I would just observe and say that the thing about depression is it's not necessarily consistent. It's not necessarily like someone who goes through depression is constantly depressed. In my case, I've had some good life experiences, good memories, and I think they're invaluable. I can look at those things and think that just proves that if you just have hope, they can come. So anyone out there who's feeling at rock bottom, maybe you're going through something much, much worse than me. I'm not going to issue advice because it's different for different people, except to say that my observation is that with depression, you go through these periods where things seem pretty down, but maybe something can improve. I'll give an example. Not long ago, I had a serious toothache. Basically, I had a rotten tooth and it had to be dealt with. And that was a big distraction. At the time, it's all I could think of. Pain at points was excruciating. Um, one night I couldn't rest for 3 hours, but got sorted. I had to re-register with a new dentist, and there was a bit of bureaucracy involved, but it got sorted. Um, so at least now that's not a concern. I'm in no physical pain. That's totally gone. A bit of a gap, but the problem has been solved. So now I'm focusing on those other things that were my issues. When I had that tooth pain, I wasn't thinking, okay, the money thing comes into it because that's treatment you have to pay for. But my dating life was on the back of my mind at that point. I was just thinking about the pain. So when you have problems in life, maybe it's the cynical side of human nature that we're never fully content. And yet, I know there's things I can be grateful for, definitely. Um, and when I think of those things, and then I think, well, maybe I'm just too hard on myself sometimes. I'm a very, very ambitious person by nature, and I'm not where I want to be at 37, really. But I also have to remind myself I've had achievements in life. I've done things that other people haven't done. And just because this situation I'm in is not ideal, does not mean that it's over. Things are over, far from it. So I don't think you can force happiness. You can't just force yourself to cheer up. But I think contentment is more plausible, or at least a sort of distraction. So, for instance, after this, I can not think about the profound things. I cannot think about I am powerless to do this, or that's beyond my reach, or I don't have this, I don't have that. I could just look at a short. I could just browse YouTube, and that's. I'm not saying it's a fix, but some funny videos. Gives me a laugh. Pain's gone. I'm being pretty productive every day. I'm getting things done. Um, so really, it's not a case of you can't go from depression to being happy like that. You can get a sort of middle point where it's okay, it's not too bad, and you're out of that state of mind. I mean, I'm feeling a little better now than I was 2 hours ago. So I would just conclude with that. But really, I don't feel cagey about talking about this. Some of the finer details, and I won't talk too much about. I mean, I've mentioned broadly speaking money concerns and dating concerns, but I do have some limits on how much I talk about that, simply for the reason that I stated, because people can get too scrutinizing and judgmental, and I put it out there because other people have those concerns. It's not a state secret. It's not something I feel is taboo, but I just choose to give the broad issue, not the finer details. And I'm not looking for advice. All I'm doing here is saying that this is common. It remains a leading cause of death for, I believe, men under 50 in the UK. Suicide, I'm talking about. Now, that's shocking. I don't know, I can't remember what the precise figure was, but it's very high. I think the statistic is men are 3 times more likely to commit suicide, although women may be more likely to attempt suicide. I think it's something like that. Um, but definitely, I think as a society we've improved a lot. I think we are more sympathetic to mental health issues, which is a good thing. Um, and goodness knows the modern world throws at us lots and lots of challenges at any one time that we're all going through, living, you name it. But I think sometimes we have to just step back a little bit, stop beating ourselves up, and I'm talking to myself here as much as anyone, and take each day at a time. It sounds like a cliche, take each day like it's the last. But I think that's a good philosophy because it makes you value the present rather than dwelling on the past or the future. Just makes you think of the present. And it's something I need to really do a lot more. Okay, people, thanks for watching. Like I say, just a little disclaimer, I'm not looking for advice and I don't want to go into too many of the personal details. I'm talking more broadly here about just how depression feels. It can be a very, very powerful feeling. It can. I'm only fully aware of how much of a grip that can be. But, we as individuals are bigger than that thing. We really are. We have to be. And it's not a permanent. That's the thing to remember. It's not a permanent. Okay, thanks for watching.